Hello. How are we doing? Welcome. This is the final event of the Lit House this year. We have had a very strong season. Yes, you can clap. Thank you. Which means I get to not have to give you any other announcements. So I have the easiest job of all of us all year. But no, thank you for being here. This is our first year reading. It is pretty much my favorite event of the year. There's so many new faces in this group of writers. The first year students, we want to welcome them to Washington College the best that we can. And I'm very excited that we get to hear their work for the very first time in this space. And I do want to send a special shout out to Alex for doing our tech. Thank you, Alex. And thank you for all of you showing up. And of course, like all the programming in here, we're a small team. Professor Kesey and Dr. Hall, like we have all put so much time and effort into these events. And so I want to thank my colleagues as well. To get us started though, we are going to have Denise Bernal.
Inscribed sentiments. Entrenched with a clustering sweet taste from that which grows from the sea grape, lasting messages written on its leathery leaves with the never-ending sentiments of life, of human thought, undistinguishable from centuries past, all chasing the explanation of the same thing, meaning of the soul, free? Like a bird's vision unbound, surpassing the known, finding camouflage among the twigs, freely binding mud and spider silk. Like the wind goes from sea to sea, running to reach the end, although there is no known end. Like the intensity one's love carries every day, even more after death, only changing in growth. Purported to be the essence of human life by thinkers of this age and of the past. The self, the rational, the actuality. They write with no constraints, to speak on the confinements mostly endure in the quest for finding the truth of the soul, they call it, as their messages remain inscribed in the leathery parts.
Thank you, Denise. That was lovely. Very lovely language choice, but you had me at spider silk. You all don't know me very well yet, but I absolutely love spiders. I have 2 pet jumping spiders. I write about spiders. So if anybody wants to talk about spiders, how many times can I say the word spider tonight? That is my new challenge, honestly. Please, you know where to find me. It is upstairs. This stairway, if you go straight, that's my office anytime. Spiders. Okay. Next up, we have Sunny Cox.
Yeah, that's not gonna. Hi, my name is Sunny Cox. Here we go. We would have made all sorts of excuses for ourselves had we done it. I think about that often. I think about the larval stage justifications already lurking in the back of my mind before I even really understood what was going to happen. I would have said we didn't have a choice. I would have said nobody else was going to do it. And nobody had really liked Taylor to begin with. He was a mean little man without a redeeming quality to his name, hair cropped short, voice thin and shrill. That summer, he'd gotten into a car crash out on one of the back roads with his wife. Our town was small. Word of what had happened got around quick. Rick survived, but his wife didn't, and none of us believed for a second that hadn't been intentional. Hearing it lit a fire under all 4 of us, Lenny, Daniel, Sam, and me. Sam was particularly disturbed by it, like he was by everything those days. His son had died a few months prior, and he hadn't been the same since. We seethed amongst ourselves. We didn't show that aggression outside of our own fortified tinderboxes, but it still festered underneath everything we did in the following days. The drive out there was virtually silent. The summer night around us was dark, pulling us deeper into its maw. Nobody turned on the radio, nobody spoke, nobody talked about a game plan, we just went. The house appeared like a beacon in front of the trees. Warm yellow light spilled from its windows, unnatural and sickly. Things shifted once we were actually out in front of it. We all had shovels and we all had matchsticks. Our intentions winded between us like elastic pulled taut. It was either going to snap or it wasn't. I'm not a violent man. I like to think that. I had gotten into a couple of ill-advised brawls as a kid, a few heated arguments with people in my life. I didn't think of myself as someone who liked to hurt things. But I did that night, and I had in the days before, looking forward to our hazy but glorious plan of action, blurred yet vivid in my mind. Violence is never like what you think it is in your head. In that moment, every fantasy melted away into the tension between what we were there to do and the potential to actually do it. We could see it there, the precipice stretching out before us, a waiting abyss, a tipping point. So for a while, we did nothing. 4 men just standing there and breathing. Insects buzzed in the nearby marshes. Pine trees loomed silent over our head like witnesses. "We're going to die out here," Lenny said at last, his voice brittle. I realized very quickly that he was right. There was no scenario in which we killed Rick Taylor and survived it. There was no scenario where our burned and blackened bodies didn't fall apart right there in that clearing. We would never be able to leave. Eons later, skulls picked clean by animals that didn't exist yet, we would remain. I realized that I had only talked to Rick a handful of times. I realized that I didn't even know his wife's name and perhaps never had, this dead woman who, in my head, would have justified our actions. If we went through with it, I knew, our entire lives would narrow down to just that moment, to the only moment, just the same violent night over and over again. It would be so satisfying. It would be the end of the world. I wasn't the one who spoke up, but I was the first to step away. Lenny followed, and then Daniel, all walking quietly like we were backing away from the mouth of a wild animal. I didn't hear a fourth set of footsteps, and when I reached the car, I only allowed myself to look back once. It was Sam, of course. It could only have been Sam, who had lost enough to know what he wanted, who could embrace obliteration like it was the only option. We left him there because it didn't matter. You could judge me for that if you want, but you weren't there. His feet were rooted to that spot, so we left him to his eternal tomb and returned to our homes in silence. The next day, the news broke. The house was gone, burned in the night, reduced to a crater in the earth. We all scratched our heads and told our wives it was the strangest thing. What a disturbed man to do such a thing, we said. What a terrible, unforeseeable turn of events. But when I allow myself to, I remember the way it felt on the threshold of the thing. How we were all bound in our conviction and just how easily that conviction fell away. We would have made all sorts of excuses had we not walked away, living corpses in our own skin, endlessly justifying something we couldn't ever really justify. I still see Sam in town sometimes. Nobody else knows it was him. We don't talk, we don't acknowledge each other. There would be no point in trying. I know that there's nothing left of him now. I still believe that someone had to do it because something out there wanted it to happen. I still believe that someone had to do it. I'm just glad that someone wasn't me.
Thank you, Sunny. That was creative nonfiction, right? Nothing that we can prove. Yes, it was a very good story. It was a very good short story. No, but that is a testament to the voice. That was really lovely. And do you know what would have really helped make it stronger when you were in the woods? Spiders. Yeah, spiders. Yeah, because I mean, how are you going to go in the woods and not have this? Never mind. Okay. Next up, we have Willowdale.
Hi, my name is Willowdale, and I'm going to give a little bit of context to what I'm reading. So my dad said to me the other day, while talking about age and the life of my old dog, that he's been thinking of his mom a lot and his dad, and then his voice softened when he said his granny too, that he misses them a lot. And I had to look away to think of anything but my dad's face. His face as a kid missing his mom. And then it made me think of this essay that I wrote for fun and a way to place my grief at the time. And then I changed it into my college essay because you kind of need something for that. And I was like, oh, what better way to do this is than to use this really sad entry journal. And it's one of my favorite things that I've ever written. So Yeah. Um, I had to think about it because I lost my Pocono grandma. My dad lost his mom, the one person who knew him better than anyone, and loved him unconditionally, even before she closed her eyes. So this is called The Red House and the Old Wood Swing. Up in the Pocono Mountains, down a windy road, there's a little red house with an old wood swing. Most would not take a second glance or even bother to notice it, but to me, it was everything. Up there in the mountains, it's quiet and cold, but it feels like home. The wood-paneled walls of a red house hid my memories. The linoleum floors showed signs of deep wear from all our dancing, and our stairs creaked with every other step. I remember everything about her house. I would be able to walk through it with my eyes closed. I could tell you what plants she had in her greenhouse or what movies she watched in the den. Almost every month, for as long as I can remember, my family and I found ourselves in the car, watching the landscape morph from the concrete jungle of Philadelphia into the bright green hues of the mountains. I knew we were there by the way the road twisted and turned, by the way the air felt lighter the higher up we went, and the bright smile that greeted me as we pulled into her driveway. Home. She always felt like home. My Pocono grandma, holding her arms open wide, calling my name as I ran across the vast expanse of the driveway to meet her. Alzheimer's didn't give us any warning. It came through fast, knocking us all off our feet. I was too young then to understand what it really meant, but I knew everything was wrong. 1 month, I was happy on that swing outside. The next, I was sitting in a waiting room chair, staring up at the fluorescent lights. Everything changed so fast. Her voice didn't seem like her own anymore, and her eyes didn't focus. Within months of her diagnosis, I could not recognize the woman I once smiled with. The familiar drive to her home transformed into cement deserts of highways. Her once familiar perfume was asphyxiated by the sterile and chemical smell of nursing homes and hospitals. Her home, reduced to a cell-like room, was deprived of any color or personality. Unfortunately, so was she. Her smiles were replaced with frowns. Her queen's accent jumbled into incoherent words. And her baby blue eyes, my eyes, wandered like a baby's. I had once been told that I had her eyes, but now I can't see it. I can't see her face in my memory anymore, not the way I wish I could. Her sharp jaw and chin blurred like looking through a foggy haze. The roots of my family tree are rotten with disease, and the leaves reek with my fear. Alzheimer's stole her from my arms and left someone I did not recognize. Her eyes haunt me. Her life chases me. I'm afraid I will end up like her, yet terrified I won't. Her life had been so full of love and light before it was taken from her, and I aspire to live just as she did, without fear, without anything holding her back. Her condition instilled a fear in me of the future, of forgetting, of being forgotten. I do not want to forget anything, though I know I do often. I don't want to lose sight of who I am and the people I love. Over time, I have turned this fear into a passion to do and never stop doing, to become the best person I can be, to leave the world better than I found it. I have the urge to leave a mark on this earth, so even as I forget, I won't be forgotten, as the same disease takes me too. I cherish my memories, because they are the framework of who I am as a person. I write little notes into the margins of papers. I take pictures of mundane things. I look up at the sky and I live where I stand. I am everyone I have ever met, sewn into a quilt that can stretch for miles. And right there, in the middle, is someone I cherish the most. She's the reason why I have passion, why I'm striving to be my best, and why I do not take the little moments for granted. My Pocono grandma, who lived in a little red house with an old wood swing up high in the Pocono Mountains.
Thank you so much, Willow. That was gorgeous. I mean, you've already learned one of the first rules of being a writer is how to leverage our grief to get something that we want, whether it's a book or into college. Welcome. Thank you. Also, I am positive jumping spiders lived in your grandmother's plants. So 100%. 100%. Next up, we have Sienna Folks.
Okay. This piece is called Lunar's Limelight. I wrote it for my creative writing class last week. I saw myself in the moon tonight, its heart ripped out and laid bare to the world, hiding behind the shadow of something more accomplished than you could ever wish to be, but also somehow thriving in that darkness, reveling in its own beauty of blood. This is what it means to be human, feeling everything but nothing at all, beautiful but in pain. We were always told beauty is pain, and there's beauty in blood. But now it's only me, oozing in the world's eyes, somehow without you now. I see you in the moon too, staring back at me with the same pitiful expression you had last we met. But tonight, it's only me who stares back, crimson tears falling but never hitting the ground. This is what it means to be a woman, too emotional for your own good, but unfeeling entirely. Would this remind you of a sight as ill as me? I still stand in your shadow, no matter how far I run. I can never escape you, nor that night. I would blame you, but there'd be no point in cursing a corpse. You're already exactly where I want you, and everyone knows I'm suffering more. And of course, you're enjoying it. You always did enjoy watching me fall apart. But that is what it meant to be you, though at the same time, this was never about you. It's about me, and this is what it means to be me, bleeding out, crying for help, but none ever coming. It never will. Instead, stares in its stead, watching and waiting. People will look and say it's art, but that's the last thing this is. That is what it means to be lunar in the light of shadows. That is what it means to just be.
Thank you, Sienna. That was very lovely as well. So far we have murder, grief, human existence is pain. We are off to a very great start. I'm loving this. Next up, we have Ace Haas.
Obligatory spider mention. Insert that here. This is an excerpt from a This is an excerpt from a sci-fi story I am writing, which means it's got its own time system that I should probably explain. So a tick is a day, a shift is a week, and then an orbit is a year. 10 ticks in a shift, 10 shifts in an orbit. I will let you do the math from there. So this is the Blight. Second tick of the 5th shift, orbit 792. It wasn't just an infection. It started out that way, one too many people coming down with the same symptoms. Those that were strong, healthy, and powerful were crippled overnight. Their skin turned black and gray, losing most of their ability to move and cast magic, and in the worst cases, turning to stone. Those who didn't started attacking when the sun came up this tick. There was no warning or reasoning, just pure violence. Then the weather turned. Extreme heat and cold, hail, thunder, floods, even earthquakes claiming their own victims. In addition, the wilderness died and the air above is toxic to breathe. I don't know where everyone else is. Torn and I fled to the underground facility I constructed a while back, and 4th tick of the 6th shift, orbit 792. It has been about a shift since the Blight. That's what I've started calling it. I started the previous recording to try and preserve what happened on that tick, but got sidetracked with survival. Considering I'm still here and have no idea how many of us are still alive, I'll continue it. In the worst case, it'll just be a way to take notes. In the best case, it could save the world. My name is Kriv Mystan, and I am a head scientist of the Ascensions Lab. When the Blight hit, I fled to an underground facility with my partner in both the arcane and life, Torin. Our current goal is to figure out what caused the Blight and perhaps find a possible cure if needed. If society has somehow survived, that research will help them rebuild. To be honest, some of us had a hunch that something was coming. A few shifts before the end, Ash noticed how animals would begin their hibernation early, or how some had adapted to live more fulfilling lives underground. Shava noticed the weather changing to more unnatural extremes and natural disasters becoming more intense and frequent. Torn thought that this could only get worse and that suggested that we follow the animal's lead. So I began to upgrade my lab to be more fit for a bunker. Air generators, decent supplies, and, hopefully soon, a replenishable food source. Ash and Shava were supposed to meet us here if things got worse. Torn tried to reach out to them with his magic, but either the blight has disrupted that or... If I'm going to do anything, I'll first need to figure out what exactly the blight is. That means I'll need a sample of it, but that involves going back up to the surface. I'll begin work on some sort of hazmat suit, so I suppose I will update when all that is finished. First tick of the 8th shift, orbit 792. It's dead up there. All of the greenery has withered away or is infested with the blight, and everyone that's up there, they've been turned to stone. They had to have been running from something. Almost all of them were looking back in terror or forward in determination. What's wild is that the stone didn't just encase them, but turned every aspect of them to stone. It didn't go after the strong this time either. It didn't spare anybody. I didn't get a chance to get a sample. Everything was so overwhelming, I just ran back to the base. I'll head back up when I can, I just need a moment. 7th tick of the 8th shift, orbit 792. It took a bit, but I was able to pull myself together and get a sample of the blight through a corrupted leaf that somehow remained. I ended up having to contain it in a stone box because it was deteriorating most other materials. After some testing, I'm starting to think that the blight is alive or somehow sentient. Yes, it follows the pattern of most diseases, only affecting living things or greenery, but the way it does infect is what's getting to me. When I approached the sample, particles formed and tried to stick to me. They stuck to the hazmat suit instead, but I've never seen this kind of behavior before. When I place stone or other minerals nearby, or use them to touch it, nothing happens. Then there's the reaction to magic. Torn used some simple telepathy on the leaf to try and move it, but even that didn't work. Instead, he felt like he was being drained of power. I'll have to test out a lot more, but the fact it is only going after organics and has this reaction to magic is something to note. Thank you.
That was really fun, Ace, except for the math part. But also, that is probably a future HBO Max miniseries. So, thank you for giving us the preview now. Next up, we have Evan Isley.
Hey everybody, my name is Evan, and before I start, I just want to thank the Lit House staff for putting on this event. This is awesome. I'm going to be reading an excerpt from a short story I wrote called The Same Schedule as the Stars. As Emmanuel careened down the highway, the distance between streetlights grew, to the point where it felt like he was jumping from one projected light swath to the next like they were lily pads. The bursts of darkness in between, in which he could not even make out the distinction of the sky, frightened him. It was the dead of night, and the road was monochrome under the glow of the moon, which was as harsh as the streetlights themselves. Despite the highway's sterility, Emmanuel knew that it connected warm towns, brilliant cities, places that were the cocoons for people's lives. Each car streaking by was simply a lone vessel in a tangible, more earthly cosmos, ushering time's most important person to their next destination. The highway may as well have spanned different worlds. Broad road signs rushed above Emmanuel and counted down to his exit. As he quit the highway, familiarity quietly set its hand upon his shoulder. The stark lights faded, and before he could blink, tall stalks of grass and corn lined his vision and replaced the gray brick sound barriers. Reclaiming its bearing on the world, the cloudless night sky flourished above the farmland and promised to reveal even more of itself in the morning. Emmanuel could barely wait to see it from his family's house, where he could step from the third-floor balcony onto the flat ledge of the roof and see the earth divided into thirds. First the beach, then the sea, then the atmosphere. He continued along the road and found that his memory was starting to kick in, so he switched off his GPS and followed the route that old routines had ingrained in his mind. His thoughts wandered back and forth through his life until they settled themselves 15 years in the past. The present night may as well have been one of those nights from years ago, and now it surprised Emmanuel that his car didn't smell like liquor. But the silence, the absence of voices and of music, and of blaring wind passing through rolled-down windows, mounted until Emmanuel's ears felt muffled, and he found himself hurtling forward 15 years and re-entering the current drive. As he took the next exit, his entire body began to buzz with the distinct sensation that he was traveling in the right direction. He had something of a compass in his soul. To him, it was palpable that everything about this trip, from the job prospect to his familiar lodgings to the area itself, aligned with more divine notions of how his life should progress. His job interview at the health center was not for another week, but he wanted the time to settle back into a house and a town that he had not lived in since he was 18. His parents had bought the vacation home when he was a child, but it ended up being paraphernalia for a life that they were never living. The only vacation that Emmanuel could remember was when his parents had flown across the country to attend to a supposed family emergency, yet had packed scuba diving gear and a beach umbrella. To his knowledge, the only person who had ever spent any significant time in the house was him. The road on which he drove narrowed, and Emmanuel could make out the silhouette of his home, which like a dormant sentinel watched him in turn. They exchanged a silent greeting when he approached the placid string of duplexes. The tires of Emmanuel's car emitted a hollow crackle as they glided across the small parking lot, a sound that almost echoed. When he disembarked, the air embraced him as it would an old friend, and on its stinging fall breath were traces of the past season. A thin but distinct layer of sand coated the lot, and the crisp edges of the homes scraped against the night. 15 years ago, he had made the same drive in the haze of early summer. Emmanuel recalled standing in his parents' driveway, prepared to blaze off to the shore, sifting through the last of the legal notices and letters that had been accumulating on the floor of his car for months. His mom had taken to piling them there so that she wouldn't have to think about them, or perhaps to somehow involve him in hopes that he would become entangled and have no choice but to stay. And yet it had been her idea to send him to the vacation home while she and Emmanuel's dad continued their arduous battles. For months, his dad's proclamations that Emmanuel's mom was a liar and that everybody in the world knew it rang out through the house, assertions matched only in ire by the prosecutor in the courtroom as he set out to prove that Emmanuel's mom had built her entire legal career on bribes and compromised evidence. Amidst the concurrent criminal trial and divorce proceedings, a teenage son had been too much to handle, so Emmanuel's mom had slipped the key to the vacation home onto his keyring and told him to pack a suitcase. After spending a couple of weeks at the house, he had remembered that his parents had a runabout moored to the dock behind the house, just beyond a belt of eclectic foliage. He took the boat out on the water, but it was difficult to maneuver amid the strong afternoon winds and choppy waves. Far from the shore and barely able to control the craft's direction, he decided to sail it back in. He carefully retied it to the dock cleats, straining to fasten the knot as tight as he possibly could. Tense, he sat curled up on the dock, the wind roaring at his back. The runabout began to drift, tugging at the rope as if it wanted to sail off of its own accord, and Emmanuel hurriedly untied and retied the cleat hitch to secure it to the dock. Sensing the temptation of the horizon, he feared that the boat would meander on its own way in search of something greater and strand him on the beach. He told himself that if he remoored the boat 50 times, this would not happen. And so he untied and retied the knot 51 times because he believed in good luck.
Thank you, Evan. If writing doesn't work out, I think you have a future as a 1960s country western singer. Easily. But I think you have a good shot at the writing. And also being our new favorite at the... No, I'm kidding. All right. So next we have Huile.
So I'm actually going to be reading 3 poems, if that's all right. They're shorter. All right. I, as Sappho. His voice, rich like honey, fever burns through me. I claim the burn, the ache as my own. At once I am Sappho. Fire is racing under skin. I too am overcome with desire for a boy. His skin, golden under sun, fever burns through me. I am alive, beautiful on this black earth. You could release me. Life looks kind only when I with you. His lips like sugar, fever burns through me. It breaks me, but falter I will not. Again I am Sappho. My heart longs to accomplish you, for you are of the beautiful and good, I of pain. I am enraptured, this love too great to be held alone. Not even Sappho can understand, for I am not she. My love is meant for me, held secret between my heart and the world. Dear you, I hope you still think of me. at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3, when no one but the moon can see you. Dear you, I hope in 20 years you'll look through a yearbook and see my face and remember my voice and my laugh and think of how I'm doing. Dear you, I hope you wonder where we went wrong. Was it because of me, because I believed them all too quickly, or because of you, with your lies weaved in honey? Dear you, I think about you more than I'd like, when I'm alone with my thoughts, when I'm supposed to be working, when I can't sleep, all at times when I wish you never existed. Dear you, I see you on social media and get reminded of what you look like, even though your voice has faded and I can't recall your laugh, but your face is so different than last we met. Dear you, I never want to see you again, not on the street or across a party or at the wedding of someone we both used to know, because even if this poem is for you, it's for me too. A haiku for everyone I've ever loved. Her with her golden hair, scared of her own truth, she broke my heart first. His warmth fixed my heart, but I was never the one you would choose, so, friends. I never loved him, but he loved me sweetly, even if his lips were rough. The next two I didn't love either, but they fit the mold I knew to love. Now you. I think I love you properly, but you love another.
And your name has finally entered the chat, all the murder aside. That was very lovely. Thank you, Wei. Next up, is Fiona here? Yeah. Are you ready? Oh. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, we will save then. Okay. You are very welcome. All right. So then next we have Carly Moorhead. If you have something about spiders, that would be preferable. Hi, Carly. There you go.
Hello, my name's Carly Moorhead, and I'm going to be reading the first few pages of an essay I wrote. It's called Splinters. There's a splinter in my heel and one in my thumb. The bits of wood have been there for years, maybe a decade even. Over time, they've been reclaimed by flesh and skin. My mom would try her best to get them out as a kid, but I was always scared of her trying. I think it's because she would sterilize the needle. The potential of what the flame could do is what really scared me. I never told her about most of the splinters I got as a kid, just for that reason. As a kid, if you had scars, you were cool. You were cool because then you had a story to tell all the other kids. More importantly, it didn't matter if that story was true or not. In the great neighborhood of Tower Gardens, there were only 4 kids my age. When we all figured that out, we were near inseparable during the summer months from ages of 6 onward. Erin, she lived at the end of the street towards the docks. Her bicycle was an accurate reflection of her personality. It was a faded pink with glitter tassels falling off the sides of her handlebars. Her bike tires were still covered in the mud we rode through days before, covering her Barbie stickers. Will lived next door to me. Our moms were best friends, which meant growing up, the playdates were planned against our will. We had a sort of forced relationship that way. Then Owen lived in the house behind me. One summer day, Erin and I were playing in my backyard. My dad was sitting on the patio listening to the newest and hottest country album of the time. I think Owen's dad's ears perked when he heard the ring of a fake country accent echoing through the backyard, a staple of the 2010s country music scene. He called over the fence to my dad and asked if he wanted a beer. He nodded and went over to the fence. A little while later, I looked up and saw my dad nodding his bald head for me to come over to the fence line. Between the wooden fence posts, I met Owen. Our home was on the shore of the Chesapeake Bay, and our summers were spent breathing the humid, brackish air and waving to the watermen from the shore. Between the months of May and August, not a single day went by when we didn't go down to the docks. The four of us were early risers, and so by 8 in the morning, Aaron, Owen, Will, and I were standing on the piers, standing out at the horizon, wishing we'd never have to leave this place. It was a hot July day, the type of day where it felt like you had to swim through the air to get anywhere. It was the middle of crabbing season, and by the tradition our fathers taught us, the neighborhood kids raced down towards the docks. Our hands would be full of fishing rods, tackle boxes, and nets as we trudged down the gravel road towards the boat launch. After laying down our baggage, we'd run onto the piers. By this time, all the watermen were long out on the bay, pulling their crab traps or setting them. I think we're all 9. This seems like a story that happens when you're 9. Your childhood is at its height. Your imagination is flowing out of your ears, and anything is possible. You seem unstoppable. It's the time when you can just be a kid, running wild and no one bats an eye. You think Mr. Bill will get us crab necks? Chicken necks? We all sat with our feet dangling over the edge. We looked down, saw the reflection of the soles of our feet. We saw our faces, distorted by the water, but filled with that innocent wonder kids have. If we looked further, we'd see the sandy bottom and maybe catch a glimpse of a blue crab scooting across. We heard the shuffle of gravel behind us and saw Mr. Bill trudging down the gravel driveway towards us at the dock. He was pulling a wagon behind him, and in that wagon was a lawn chair, a beat-up bushel basket, and 3 different coolers. One cooler was filled with soda and snacks for us kids, another for his 12-pack, and another for the chicken necks, our crab bait. Our grateful hands would fall straight to the cooler filled with soda. "Don't tell your parents I'm letting you drink this crap," he'd say as he cracked a can of beer for himself and himself only. Mr. Bill was the neighborhood's equivalent to a mayor. My mom and almost every other adult would call him Mayor Bill. Mr. Bill, what I knew him as, would always be yelling at someone about the dog shit he found in his lawn, or that he didn't like the color of their door, or too many decorations around Christmas time. He never yelled at us kids. He only ever talked to us. I think that's why us kids didn't mind Mr. Bill hanging around, was because he didn't treat us like kids. He was more like that uncle everyone wished they had. But more importantly, he watched out for us. Most of our parents worked the water, or gone early and back late, or deadbeats entirely. Mr. Bill knew that. He knew that we all needed someone in our lives, someone we could trust. He'd follow us onto the docks with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth and a can of beer in his hand, and tell us not to go into the rock jetty. Water snake will get you. He'd groan with his heavy Maryland shore accent, and then go back to his wagon. He'd pull the styrofoam cooler and open it up. "We're catching dinner," he'd say, as he handed us all a bit of rope and a chicken neck. Aaron and I were handed one, and we took it and ran. Hey, don't rush. You two will get a splinter. You don't want that." Taking his advice, we'd walk onto the pier, lay face down, and throw our lines in the water. Our heads would hang below the docks, and we'd wait to feel the tug of a crab claw. By noon, we'd have about a bushel of crabs already between the 4 of us kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Carly. Just out of curiosity, was it Evan's country album that they were listening to? Maybe. Also, I appreciate the resurfaced childhood trauma about splinters, too. I'm happy that we went up from there. All right, so next we have Michaela Osei.
Hello, I'm Michaela, and before I got started with this, I wanted to give context, but also just ramble a bit before I actually start talking, because if I get here and talk about it now, I might freak out. So, this poem is about a guy I met in high school who my friends and I gave the very, very endearing nickname of Voldemort, and how I was kind of scared to release this. But if there's anything I've learned from my creative writing class, it's that there's such a beautiful thing in being vulnerable. So here it is. All right. So here it is, all you could have been. When I see your eyes, I see the face of a boy who once loved his mother. His one desire to be the gentleman she raised. When I hear you laugh, I hear the remnants of a child who wanted to show all the love in the world. Would I laugh at your jokes? I'd seen your eyes. They glisten with innocence. When all you wanted was to be an embodiment of joy. But I see you now, as a shadow looms over you. Your dark thoughts manifest in the media you consumed, where a man had promised a lifestyle that would destroy all your insecurities. As he builds you up, you take others down, keeping your head held high by pushing others under your thumb. When I hear you spew the hate of your mentor, I think of your mother. I imagine she grieves her little boy and his missing teeth, his little smile and rosy cheeks, his altruistic actions and rose-colored lenses. A boy who wanted to be all the good in the world. She wonders where she went wrong, looking for the day her baby boy had died and a shallow man had risen. I imagine you ignore it and pretend it would have never worked out, that no good would come from saving a world beyond help. You'd sit in your room. As you lifted your weights, you continued to drop your feelings. 'Cause real men never cry, even to the mother who once soaked his tears. I will warn you though, but it's your job to listen. On a day where you have nobody, when you've pushed them far away, your wounds will deepen, your insecurities will arise, and they will course through your swollen veins, possess your bloodshot eyes, and seep into your flesh skin. You will look to your mother, nowhere to be found, and you will fall into yourself through an end of your own making. But I will always watch you from the other side of the classroom, mourning the boy I met on the first day of school. But at least I could look to his mother and assure her her baby boy still exists, although I couldn't say he had much time left.
Thank you, Michaela. It can be really hard as writers. I mean, that is what we are in many ways asked to do. And here you are vulnerable on the page and vulnerable here in front of all of us. And so in all seriousness, thank you. So much of writing is a lesson and an act of vulnerability. And if you're me, it's also about spiders. So thank you. I know that was Dr. Hall. Next up, we have Bandit Powell.
I feel so short moving the mic down. So, a little bit of context. I started writing this in middle school. I actually pitched it to an author, Michael Morrissey, and he was the one who encouraged me to write it. I have completely written it, but I'm rewriting it. So this is as much as I've gotten in my rewrite. I also don't have a name for it. I stir under the warm blankets, squinting into the dark. My vision sharpens to view my clock, 7:36. The air is cold, and as much as I want the warm embrace of sleep, something is tugging at my attention. I look around, searching for what is off-putting me. The breeze is caressing my face, asking me to think. The breeze. The window. I turn. It's open. Seconds pass. Tick. I breathe in. I feel my muscles tense. I slide my leg out from under the blanket. Tick. Breathe out. My vision clears. I'm standing somehow. Did someone break in? Tick. The rough, splintered wood of the bat in my room meets my hand. Breathe in. Who? Tick. I heard something. Am I imagining noises from the kitchen? Oh gods. Breathe out. Tick. Cold, hardwood floor tolerates my feet as I hug the wall of the hallway to the kitchen. Pause. I peek into the kitchen. Tick. A flash of long platinum blonde hair by the stove has me sinking to my knees in relief. My brain registers her as my childhood best friend, Clarice. I struggle to stand back up as the adrenaline leaves my system, but a sweet smell flooding into my nose motivates me. "Heya," Clarice says without looking up. I can hear the smile in her voice. Thinking about it reminds me of how much of a morning person she has always been compared to me. "Did you come in through the window?" I grumbled back, my voice deepened and raspy from sleep. I set the scrappy bat down against the hallway wall and walked towards her. Her gaze was fixed on whatever she was doing. "You should really fix the latch on your window," she says casually, as if asking if I want coffee. That latch had held through the 2 winters I've lived here for... That latch had held through the 2 winters I've lived here for, as well as an attempted burglary. It wasn't the latch, it was her. "That's not the important..." I stopped myself and took a breath. "Why are you in my apartment?" Clarice glanced over her shoulder, her gentle gaze meeting my confused one. Without giving away I had asked her anything, she asked if I wanted pancakes, as she flipped one. The hiss of butter filled the silence while I just gave a blank stare. I stared at her back, at the way she moved like she knew where everything was, and was at home here, like she'd always known where I kept my cinnamon. "Clarice, what?" I stopped as she cut me off. "They're blueberry," she says in a sing-song voice as she flips another pancake with ease. I should have been mad. I was, I think. The shock was all-consuming, completely numbing my senses and reason, or else I would have noticed the tear stains on her cheek, and the way her smile didn't reach her eyes today. Instead, I focused on the way she moved like she belonged here, like I needed to explain my presence. "You looked like you needed something warm," she says, setting down a steaming plate of pancakes on the counter in front of me.
Thank you, Bandit, and welcome to the liminal space that is the rewrite. I wish you luck and a way out eventually. Also, Ace, I don't know your math yet. Do you know how much time went by at the beginning of that? All the ticks. All right. Next, we have Ed Roundy.
I'm Ed Roundy. This is my poem, "The Night Before Receiving Bad News." There are Christmas lights, even though it is hardly ever Christmas. But I'm not thinking of Christmas. Instead, I'm thinking of how there's so much blood in my head it's singing. I fall over laughing and my hands turn white on the ground. And I've never been to New Orleans, but it has to be something like this. Like I am on all fours and the girls I have made into my friends giggle over me, and surely I am the proudest creature in the world, my white hands, my singing head. I think I have given up my parade. I lie down, breathing at the ceiling, my nose an inch from the roof. It is cool and bare, and they must not have ceilings in New Orleans. They must send up their light into the atmosphere to pass over the oceans and the continents and come back to the party, a light that has not missed out on anything. I am not thinking of Christmas. Instead, I'm thinking of the music churning in my stomach when someone mentions tomorrow morning. I cannot stand it, so I swell to my feet and the singing drains from my head. My hands pink again. I am thinking of New Orleans, how one year my mother will bring me along. I will dance on all fours, sixes, and 12s, proud creature that I am. I will hold a Christmas light in my fist and watch my hand turn red, bidding the blood to keep me upright. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. I'm from the Gulf Coast, and if you toss in a hurricane, and by that I mean the really sickly sweet drink that most of you are too young to drink, that is exactly how New Orleans is. So I'm happy that you're here now and not there. Okay, now we have Page Solutions.
I will be reading a poem that I wrote during a period of grieving in my life, entitled Time. Stop. Go. Stop. No, keep going. Slow down. Clocks, little arm, tick past each line. New minutes, meticulously. Hours, days, weeks, years blur. Rush by like the bright, streaky headlights of passing cars. Time, it's a concept. It's comprehensible. Until it isn't. Until the preconceived definition cracks, falters in your head. Feels unreal. Time never stops, even when you do. When your life spirals, when something so earth-shattering happens. It makes you break. You bend. It feels like time does too, but it doesn't. It keeps clicking, keeps ticking, keeps passing. Stuck in your mind, back in that moment. You relive. Past, it's behind you. Time kept moving. You didn't. Time, fragile, futile, can't be stopped or disturbed. Life, a person, they can be. Life is fragile. Gone in an instant, a click of the little hand past another minute. Soul departed, person you loved, gone with it. As that minute passes and your world falls to a halt, but time still doesn't. It ticks and ticks and ticks. Hours, days, weeks, months. And suddenly, over 1 year, 2 years, same person, life forever changed. Time, though, it still stops for no one. Coping, understanding, accepting. Concepts, like time, have definitions, but it still doesn't make it any easier to grasp. Healing, one thing positive about time. Time ticks, it moves, the little arm clicks, and with it, you begin to heal. Healing takes time. Learning to befriend it, can't escape it. Slow down, speed up, keep going. Like time, we'll keep going.
That was lovely, Paige. You both created and soothed an existential crisis, so thank you for that. Okay, Fiona, do we know? Good. Is it about spiders? I love how Fiona has no idea because Fiona was not here earlier with the spiders, but okay, I will explain later.
I'm too short for this. Yeah. Is that good? Okay. Gotta breathe. Okay. Context, I guess. I wrote this poem and I read it to my family and they hated it. But over time, I think I realized maybe that's kind of the point. I am not purple, stagnant and flat, a homogeneous mixture. One cannot separate its pieces, neither pink nor blue. Purple is finite, stuck in its singular identity, squishing itself into solid stone uniformity. It transcends no boundaries, simply makes new. I am not just purple. I am shifting spectrums of coalescing iridescence, viewed through a multifaceted lens, which disregard dimension and ricochet through the cosmos. I am patchwork luster of varied hue, my radiant tendrils outstretched to touch lonely horizons and populate their vacancies. I am a galaxy of possibilities and lilting rhythm reverberating, ever-changing and alive, with the omnipresent sentience of a confused, kaleidoscoping creature, an insubstantial subordinate of anxiety. I am fractured. I am stirring. I am. Oh, I get it. You're just purple.
Thank you, Fiona. Do you know what else is purple and iridescent? Azalea, my jumping spider's little jaws. They're very cute. All right, friends, thank you so much for joining us. That was all of our first year readers. So let's give them a big round of applause. If all of the readers could come up here to take a photo, please, we would appreciate that. As for everybody else, please continue to eat food. Readers can also eat food after photo. But You're trapped for now. So much food, though. Please eat, enjoy. Thank you for another wonderful semester, and we love you all. Bye.